sci-fi genre of movies is one which has reigned triumphant in the box office for decades. So much so, in fact, that at the time of this recording, 6 of the top 10 highest-grossing movies of all time are sci-fi blockbusters. With a new Marvel movie coming out a couple of times a year and the semi-annual space epic to grace our screens with bombastic displays of lasers, explosions, and aliens, it can be argued that the genre has become the cornerstone of modern-day cinema itself. Now sure, it makes sense. As technology advances, studio special effects budgets go through the roof as they are eager to blast viewers in the face with ornate displays of CGI, the likes of which we never even had the audacity to ask for. And it just so happens that sci-fi is the most fitting medium for them to do this. However, if one rewinds the clock and observes the genre's humble beginnings, it leaves you wondering just how it became successful in the first place. The answer lies in the works of 2 decorated figureheads of cinema, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Regarding George Lucas's contributions to the sci-fi industry, do I really have to say anything? Star Wars. Arguably no other franchise in history has had the sort of cultural impact that Star Wars has. Walk down the street and I'm willing to bet that 10 out of 10 people could identify a lightsaber, a Jedi, the Force, Darth Vader, etc., etc. It is very common knowledge that Star Wars has reached every corner of the planet, but the important question is why? Why did a film which seems doomed to flop prevail and go on to revolutionize an entire genre of movies for nearly half a century? Why did a formerly average director become a household name for his ambitious film? Just what exactly did Star Wars do that its predecessors did not? The answer is simple. It looked freaking incredible. Have a look at what were considered to be some of the best sci-fi films prior to Star Wars: Planet of the Apes, War of the Worlds, Metropolis, The Day the Earth Stood Still. All of these movies can stand alone in the genre and are worthy of being called classic films, but they all have one thing in common. Their effects are entirely a product of their times. The way in which these otherworldly threats were displayed is oftentimes something that even a child would not find believable. Enter Star Wars, the first film which truly made audiences feel as though they were aboard a spaceship flying to other worlds and mingling with grotesque aliens. A film is only as good as its ability to make a viewer feel as though they are a part of it, and a key component of doing this is having believable effects. George Lucas knew this, and as such he devoted a staggering amount of resources to the movie's effects department to craft miniature figures of spaceships, make use of stop motion to encapsulate the nature of space battles, and more or less develop a new form of special effects which paved the way for lofty films of the future. Now sure, it can be said that compared to the industry nowadays, Star Wars effects are laughable. While it is true that technology has come a long way since then, it's important to note that at its time, the way Star Wars was able to depict a galaxy far, far away was truly otherworldly. Steven Spielberg's films have always had the special ability to be relatable to almost any viewer, despite the coat of paint which surrounds the movie. Strangely enough, this is especially the case in his sci-fi films. As I mentioned before, a movie is only as good as its ability to make a viewer feel like they are a part of the experience. George Lucas accomplished this by making the viewers see something, while his counterpart did it by making the viewers feel something. Let me explain. When you are watching a movie and you begin to sympathize or relate with a character to the point where you know their next action while not faulting the film for being predictable, but instead praising it for making you feel like you were in the driver's seat, something was done right. When an emotional connection is formed between a viewer and a character on screen, something was done right. When you find yourself relentlessly sobbing in your living room watching a boy say goodbye to his alien friend, something was done right. Spielberg's talent for appealing to the humanity of his viewers is something that transcends the film and leaves the viewer feeling better about themselves and the world when walking out of the theater. Many of his classics like E.T., Jurassic Park, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind expertly manipulate the viewer's emotions, because underneath all the supernatural, the themes they contain are all too familiar for the common person. So while Spielberg's contribution to sci-fi is in an entirely different lane than Lucas's, he nonetheless made the industry better by ironically grounding it with realism. In conclusion, the impact that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg had on the sci-fi genre cannot be understated. They single-handedly managed to turn what used to be the host of campy and largely unsuccessful films into the leading moneymaker at the box office. Whether or not sci-fi is your cup of tea, it cannot be denied that its effects on our culture today are immense, and we have the dynamic directing duo to thank for this. Since its inception, sci-fi has always been about capturing the unfathomable and displaying it in a way which seems practical, and Spielberg and Lucas just happened to be the first to master it.